the system, you have to identify, broadly at least to begin with, what the problems are. What are the problems that we are seeking reform for? We are all here for reform, but what are we seeking to reform? Now, one of the major issues raised by the speakers that have gone before me today, is institutional bias, if I may term it like that. Bias exhibited by judges. Of course, undeniably there is judicial bias, and again I would congratulate Justice Dhingra for having stated so forthrightly. Some of you may have experienced this judicial bias if you are litigants, or if you ever had the misfortune of being litigants in our legal system. But that is one aspect, that is the human aspect. Again, like Mr. Kapoor mentioned before, if we raised our children properly, perhaps we would be able to do something about character flaws that lead to bias at a subsequent stage. But what about systemic bias? Is that possible? Does that exist? And if so, in what form? Let me give you an example. I'm a lawyer. Some members here posed a question some time ago, why is a case taking 5 years, or why have I been hit by a 498A case right with 325, 326, 120B, etc., etc. Well, when a lady comes to me, if it is a lady that has come to me, with the express intention of initiating matrimonial litigation, this is how a lawyer would advise this lady. He would say, right, 498A file करो, उसके बाद DV file करो, domestic violence, फिर 125 लगाओ for maintenance, and then move for divorce, Hindu Marriage Act. Once you have laid the trap, so to speak, चंगुल एक बार बिछा दिया, once you get the guy trapped, then we'll negotiate. One of the most unfortunate aspects of this form of litigation is using, as Mr. Kapoor mentioned, children, the child, as a pawn in the game. It's a chess game. Okay, you want custody of the child? Pay me this much money. Oh, you want custody of the child? Do this for me, do that for me. Now, at the very outset, let me express, at the risk of alienating some members of the audience and the panel, I'm in fact I'm very pro women's rights. I do believe that women need to be protected. I do believe that laws need to be enacted. I do believe that procedures ought to be in place to protect their rights as are inherent and fundamental to them. But rights cannot be protected at the expense of someone else's rights. Any system that exists must be balanced. So what is the imbalance? If I am able to trap a husband, poor chap, in 498A, and what I will do in 498A, very smartly, is I will include his sister, I will include his brother, I will include his Masi, Mosa, Kaka, Chachi, Chacha, Nani, anybody I can possibly name in the FIR. As everybody has asked me for dowry and have been asking me, as one of the gentlemen here pointed out, for 18 years into a marriage, 20 years into a marriage, 10 years, 6 years, 6 months, it doesn't matter. Because there is no limitation as such on a client. And then what follows is state-sanctioned harassment. Nothing short of that. Because the moment you get the police involved, and the moment you get lawyers involved, I'm a lawyer and I should know, the moment you throw lawyers and police at a problem, there's no solution. There are only more problems that you have to handle. You will then have to spend more money, more time, going through more fora, more courts. Lawyer बोलेगा सर ये वाला petition file कर दो, ऐसे में यहाँ reply कर दो, यहाँ cancellation लगा दो, यहाँ भैया हमको तो पैसे कमाने, we will make money from all these applications that we move. We will keep encouraging you to initiate newer, better, more fantastic litigation because it's in our interest. But it's not just our interest. I mean, भैया सब पैसे कमा रहे तो वकील क्यों ना कमाएं? What about the police? Well, the moment there is a 498A case against you, this is a cognizable, non-bailable case. Until about 2 years ago, till such time as the Supreme Court clarified the law, 498A cases form the maximum, the single largest provision in the IPC for arrests is 498A. And 96% acquittal in such cases. Roughly, don't quote me on the figure, maybe 96.3, maybe 96.4. 96, so if you are arresting 100 people, 96 of whom you are going to set free, why did you arrest them in the first place? What is arrest? Arrest is nothing but state sanctioned abuse if used improperly. So police वाला वैसे हाँ भाई साहब आपकी बीवी ने आपके खिलाफ 498 की कंप्लेंट कर दी, आप आ जाओ थाने आ जाओ. You will go to Thana. There you will say, I have the power to arrest you. 41 CRPC gives me the power to arrest you. He is going to ignore the 9-point checklist that exists in 41 CRPC in order to initiate or effect an arrest. He is going to ignore all that because he knows now he has you, you're like a deer in the headlights. You're stuck. He has you by the scruff of your neck. Now you will pay. Because if you don't, you will suffer ignominy. You will suffer insult. You will go back into society and say, अच्छा इन्होंने ये कंप्लेंट फाइल कर दिया, आप थाने गए थे, थाने में अरेस्ट कर लिया, कितने दिन की जेसी हुई, जुडिशियल कस्टडी. What is there to be investigated in a dowry case exactly? I wonder. Are you ever going to find the items that were given at the time of marriage 18 years ago as dowry? But 18 years hence, you are free to involve the police. The moment police and lawyers get involved, problems are compounded, not resolved. This is my sincere and humble opinion. So the Supreme Court, finally, several decades later, takes cognizance of this anomaly in law, the exploitation of 498A, and says, right, let's put an end to this. Passes a judgment, Anish Kumar judgment, some of you may know, some of you may not. You can Google it, you can find it. No arrest is possible without sanction of magistrate. But the police officer calling you to Thana, will not tell you this. Why should he? Why should he tell you you have no right to be here? You have the right to be produced before a magistrate before getting arrested. I need a magisterial order. He's not going to tell you that. There's no reason. He's in it for the money. Just like I am because I'm the lawyer. Then you have DV, then you have 125 CRPC, and finally she may hit you with a divorce if she feels like, if you don't hit her with a divorce before. But this is how, notice the language of this discourse. Notice my language, notice the language of the speakers that have gone before. Would it be too speculative to say that there is a lot of passion mixed with a lot of frustration and emotion in all of this? We are frustrated. Why are we frustrated? What is the reason for this frustration? The frustration lies in our utter inability to correct what is a simple problem, and it's a simple problem. Most of these disputes, now I have no statistics to correlate, but most of these disputes are bruised egos. Marriage is between two individuals, and yet for some reason we make the state a party. And then we make everybody in society a party. Our neighbors are party, our grandparents are party, our children are, everybody is a party, naturally. Children naturally will be a party. But when the state pokes its nose in what is fundamentally a dispute between two individuals on an emotional level, and brings in its laws and brings in its ideas and philosophies, it must be very careful. It must tread very, very cautiously, because this is not a crime that is underway. Nobody is getting stabbed or murdered unless that is happening actually, in which case it is a separate offense. But when such things are happening, the state must withdraw its role to the necessary minimum. Today it is not the necessary minimum, it is the possible maximum. The maximum amount of interference that the state can do, it will do. And laws such as this, problems of substantial law like 498A, like the DV Act, etc., exhibit this quite clearly. But these are problems of substantial law that I have explained. Now the courts are taking notice of these aspects, so therefore you have the Anand Kumar judgment by the Supreme Court. Justice Prasad judgment is quite excellent. In fact, it quotes a lot of statistics about arrests with regard to 498A. In fact, they found that in 6% of the cases, women were arrested as a result of allegations made in 498A. So the wife goes and complains against the sister of the husband, the sister-in-law of the husband, the mother of the husband, and they're arrested by the police because that's a tool, a leverage to make more money out of you. Women are arrested under 498A. Manifest injustice. The court comes alive to this aspect, takes action. But all action that we take, all our remedial measures today are ad hoc, and I would say Arnesh Kumar is just another ad hoc measure. What about the other things? What are the things you ask? Well, let's take a look. You have today a lot of divorce petitions that are premised on Facebook posts, Twitter posts, WhatsApps, call data recordings, emails, private messaging between the alleged adulterous partner and the paramour. A lot of evidence we see today in courts deals with Facebook posts. So